I'm Dr. Lon, and I'm a naturopathic physician practicing in Scottsdale, Arizona. And if you happen to see my previous video, I gave a brief introduction about chronic pain and inflammation and its connection with inflammatory foods in our diets. So if you're someone who has suffered with chronic pain for a number of years, welcome to the club. Most people have some degree of chronic pain, anything from chronic neck pain to chronic back pain, chronic arthritis, any type of autoimmune arthritis or osteoarthritis, chronic muscle pain or even bone pain, chronic foot pain, chronic neck pain. All of these things are really common in our society and indeed are reaching epidemic proportions, especially as people are relying more heavily on opioid medications to deal with this pain, which again never address the underlying root cause of the inflammation and pain, only gives relief from the pain for a short period of time until the patient needs more medication. So today I was going to go a little bit deeper in this video into what are the most common pro-inflammatory foods, so the foods that cause inflammation in the body, and which foods are the most anti-inflammatory for the body. So starting with, aside from alcohol and cigarettes, which aren't foods but are things that people commonly use, aside from those are definitely inflammatory to the body. Taking those out, if you are a chronic drinker, you drink more than moderately or more than every once in a while, or you smoke cigarettes, just taking those out of your body alone will have a huge decrease in the amount of inflammation that you're experiencing in your body. And to take a step back, inflammation is strongly accompanies any type of chronic disease. So all chronic diseases have some degree of inflammation at their root cause, including mental illness. And so by decreasing the inflammatory factors that we take into our bodies throughout the day on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, we decrease our overall levels of inflammation and decrease the pain, not only the pain that we experience, but also any other symptoms that are a result of inflammation. So again, taking, quitting smoking and stopping alcohol or decreasing the amount of alcohol that you drink can greatly decrease the amount of inflammation in the body. But in terms of foods and things that we eat in our diet, especially if you're eating a standard American diet, I'm going to go through a list of the most common highly inflammatory foods that we eat on a regular basis. So the number one food that I have patients remove first is sugar and other refined carbohydrates, but particularly sugar. Sugar in and of itself is highly inflammatory, so any type of white sugar. I'm not talking about fruit sugars, I'm not talking about honey or even pure maple syrup. I'm talking about any type of refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, any of those are highly inflammatory. And so, decreasing those will greatly decrease the amount of inflammation in the body. And the problem with sugar is that it also decreases it has an immediate impact on our immune system. So it will immediately decrease the ability of our immune system to fight off viruses and bacteria and other pathogens for a certain amount of time after ingesting the sugar. It also messes with our other hormones, because as we take in refined sugars, it spikes our blood sugar and then crashes our blood sugar. So we get these spikes and these crashes which completely mess with the other hormones in our body and cause us to, start to walk down the path towards insulin resistance and eventually diabetes. So sugar is the first food that I have people remove from their diet. And this is done by switching over from whenever you want that sugary snack to going more towards fruits. And even if you're really craving that sugar, going towards the fruits that are a little bit higher in sugars, like dates and bananas. I often recommend wild blueberry and banana smoothies, or berries and date smoothies so fruits along with some almond milk or some water, even some vegan protein powder like rice protein or pea protein or hemp protein. can be really beneficial. And if you're really craving like the fatty or richer aspects of sweets, you can add in a little bit of nut butter or even some avocado to those smoothies, and that will at least get you through until you start to decrease the need for the sweets. So there's a little bit of a withdrawal period when decreasing and eliminating sugar. So sugar is one of the most highly addictive foods or even substances that we can ingest. So it's not easy, but once you've had it out of your diet for a period of about, in my opinion, it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to really feel like that it's out of your system and your body stops craving it so much. So you have to get through those couple of weeks, you know, switching over to your fruits and your smoothies and your other foods that will help balance your blood sugar, and in the meantime, let your taste buds taste a little bit of sweet. It won't be nearly as sweet as refined sugar. Refined sugar is far more sweet to the taste than things like fruit. But over time, your taste buds will acclimate, and you'll actually make more taste buds for sugar, and you will begin to not miss the refined sugar, and to the point where you won't crave it anymore. So taking sugar out is the first step that I do with people. One of the next most inflammatory foods that I often have people either decrease or completely eliminate is dairy. So dairy is any type of milk product. It's cheese, milk, cow's milk, cottage cheese, sour cream, butter, ice cream. All of these things are made from cow's milk, and all of them are pro-inflammatory foods, unfortunately. And I'm sorry, I love cheese myself, and if I could leave it in your diet and you wouldn't experience inflammation, I would. But unfortunately, most people have some degree of sensitivity to dairy. Now, most people don't know it, or the people who know that they have a sensitivity to dairy often are lactose intolerant, and so they're the people who drink a glass of milk and immediately get bloating and lots of gas and even diarrhea, and can see the immediate correlation between milk sugar and symptoms. But most other people, lots and lots and lots of people, do not do well with dairy, but do not see the correlation, because the correlation, or the immune mediated reaction, is much more chronic, and it's a much slower reaction, and so it's not an immediate reaction. It's more chronic and slow, and so you don't notice it because it happens more subtly over time. So the only way to know how you feel about any of these foods, but in particular dairy, is to take it out of your diet for a number of weeks. Anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks is ideal. It's an ideal amount of time to really, for the body to sort of reset, and then to add this food back in and see how you feel. See if your inflammation goes away while being off of dairy and then comes back, or any other symptoms truly come back after eating dairy. So dairy is the number 2 food. The third pro-inflammatory food is factory farmed meats. So factory farmed meats are really, really inflammatory for a couple of different reasons. The first reason being that factory farmed animals are under a great deal of psychological and emotional stress. And so when they are being slaughtered, they are producing high levels of cortisol right before they're slaughtered. And cortisol and also adrenaline. And these are the hormones, these are stress, the fight or flight reactive hormones. And so we are essentially slaughtering these animals at the height of their fear, and then eating the meats after, ingesting the meats, ingesting those hormones from those animals after they're slaughtered in that manner. And so that's going to increase our inflammation. On top of that, factory farmed animals do not eat their normal diet. They are, like, for instance, beef is raised often on corn because it makes a cow get fat or gain weight quickly, so it can be butchered more quickly. And instead, they're not having their natural diet. Their natural diet is to be eating fast-growing green grass. And when a cow eats fast-growing green grass, it forms different types of vitamins and nutrients and different types of fats in its body, which actually are anti-inflammatory if we ate them. But because they're fed on corn or other grains, they're not producing the same type of fat, and they're not producing the same type of vitamins that are necessary for us to function as anti-inflammatory in our bodies and also add the vitamins that we are needing in our bodies. So I don't recommend ever eating factory farmed animals. Definitely decreasing that to as much as possible. That also goes for chickens, who are generally not pasture raised. Chickens are raised in these tiny little chicken coops with, you know, thousands of chickens all squished in together, and they have the same fight or flight hormones running through them as well. That also goes for eggs as well. If you can find pasture-raised chickens or pasture-raised eggs, or pasture-raised other types of pasture-raised meats, all the better. Also, in terms of meat, any type of highly processed meat, so lunch meats, hot dogs, anything that's really processed, sausage, is going to be highly inflammatory to the body. So just taking that out alone and switching to a more plant-based diet really makes a big difference for a lot of people. And again, you're not going to see the change overnight. Your chronic pain isn't going to go away in a day or even a week, but over a couple of weeks, you should really notice a difference. Up to a month, 2 months. Changes in the body take time. It takes time for once we've gone in a certain direction in terms of with chronic disease. Once we're on this train and we're headed towards, you know, we've had inflammation in our body for months or years, it takes time to slow down that train, stop the train, and then turn it around and get it going back in the opposite direction with opposite momentum. So all the things that I'm recommending here are not going to happen overnight. You're not going to feel better to necessarily like after taking the meat out for one meal, but if you stick with it for weeks and months, your pain will decrease, if not completely go away, because of taking these inflammatory foods out. So the next group of highly inflammatory foods would be trans fats. So anything that's hydrolyzed, any type of hydrolyzed fat, any types of fried foods or margarine, all of these things are pro-inflammatory. Don't use them. As well as common cooking oils like cottonseed oil or corn oil or soy oil or sunflower, safflower. All of these oils are also pro-inflammatory. So I often recommend doing a lot more of the anti-inflammatory oils, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Another group of foods that are highly inflammatory are any types of artificial foods. So any types of preservatives that are added to the foods, artificial colors, glutamate-forming foods, so foods that produce glutamate in the body, things like monosodium glutamate, MSG, or any other types of glutamate-forming foods, and that's a whole nother video for another time. As well as things like artificial sweeteners like aspartame and things like that. Those also cause a lot of inflammation in the body. Also taking out refined carbohydrates, so any type of white flour, and switching over to whole grains, that makes a big difference for people as well. So taking out any pastries, white flour pasta, breads that are not whole grain breads, taking those out can make a big difference for people as well. In terms of the most anti-inflammatory foods, let's talk about those now. So anti-inflammatory foods are foods that are going to be really high in antioxidants and high in minerals and high in vitamins. And so these are our fruits and vegetables. My best friends, all of our best friends are fruits and vegetables. And so adding these in as much as possible will make a big difference if you're coupling that with taking out and decreasing the pro-inflammatory foods. So I love recommending all types of berries, so wild blueberries, cultivated blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, any type of berries, cherries, grapes. All of these are they're going to be anti-inflammatory even though they have sugar, so any type of fruit that has sugar in it is still going to be anti-inflammatory, so it's a good food to eat. as well as any types of vegetables. Other foods that are anti-inflammatory, again, as I just mentioned, are whole grains. So adding in things or switching over from refined carbohydrates. So instead of doing like a regular pasta, do a brown rice pasta or a quinoa pasta, or even a whole wheat pasta, as long as you're not sensitive to wheat. Those can be really anti-inflammatory and helpful for the body. And then switching over to the good oils, as I mentioned before, so oils that are higher in omega-3 fatty acids, which decrease inflammation in the body. So these are things like oils from nuts and seeds. So seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, these all have omega-3 fatty acids, as well as different types of nuts, particularly walnuts are super high in omega-3 fatty acids. Other types of good oils to use would be things like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. These will all be anti-inflammatory to the body. So those are all good oils to use. So I hope this video helped. I hope that gave you a little bit of information. I'll write everything again below. I'll make the list of the pro-inflammatory foods and the anti-inflammatory foods. And I will have recipes. A lot of recipes for the anti-inflammatory foods are listed both on my website and also on my Instagram page, so I'll put links to that below, and so don't forget to check those out. And one group of foods that I forgot to mention earlier would be a group of spices. Herbs and spices can be really anti-inflammatory too, so all kinds of herbal teas are very anti-inflammatory. Some of my favorite herbal teas are things like hibiscus flowers, nettles tea, lemon balm tea. These are all really anti-inflammatory and have a lot of other really great herbal properties to them in helping with chronic disease, but there's no time to get into that today. Other herbs that are strongly anti-inflammatory are things like turmeric and garlic and ginger. These are all things that we can cook with and we can add into our meals all the time. I love putting ginger into my green juice in the morning. I do an apple, cucumber, kale, and ginger green juice every morning, which has greatly decreased the amount of inflammation in my own body. And so those are really, really beneficial. Seaweeds are another group of anti-inflammatory foods as well. So again, that's the information that I have for you today. Good luck implementing that into your diet. And if you are needing help or support, please feel free to call our office and let me know what's going on or leave a comment below. And good luck with everything. And I look forward to seeing you next time.